Yo, so today I want to talk about spirituality being the highest form of self development. And I've had this idea for the video for a while because when I got into self development, I didn't start seeing any huge changes in myself until I got closer and closer to spirituality. Now, the thing I'm talking about here is spirituality in conjunction with psychological understanding. So, I I at first was never really drawn to spirituality, especially Eastern philosophy. But I remember when Alan Watts, I started watching Alan Watts, I started listening to Alan Watts, and that's what really pushed me towards getting deeper and deeper into spirituality. At first, I didn't know what I was listening to. I didn't know it was philosophy. I didn't know what Zen Buddhism was. I didn't know the difference between the East and the West. I was just listening to something that really challenged and resonated with my beliefs, something that challenged my reality and resonated with my beliefs. And from then on, I really switched. I really made the switch once I needed to take life seriously. I got a full ride to college. Um, and I needed to actually, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I needed to actually make decisions, perform at my highest, and find meaning in the things that I was doing. So I started to pick up books once again. As a child, I would always read books. I was constantly reading books through my adolescence. I kind of moved away from that, and once it came down to me living up to my full potential, really meeting my the challenges that I was faced with at 100%, I went back to my roots. I started reading, I started learning, and at first it started with self-help. I started with the basic stuff, learning to discipline yourself. I was listening to motivational videos. I was reading all the basic books on self-help, and then eventually I started to see some of the things, a lot of the things that were discussed were based on psychology. And so then I started to read psychology, and so I started to learn about cognitive psychology, behaviorism, um, about Adler's, all the different psychologists, right? But it wasn't until I got to Carl Jung that things started to change for me. Um, I started watching videos on YouTube from Carl Jung's philosophy, and then his reflections on the soul, and um, and so I realized that there was something deeper, and that the soul was really what I was seeking. My connection to my soul was really what I wanted, and then that's a couple that once I started going to university, I saw, it was mentioned in self help that, um, let's get this boy up here. It was mentioned in self help that meditation could help with performance, with focus, with health, and so I started to get into that. I started to get into that, and I started meditating, and so I developed a meditation practice, but it was mainly for performance. It was mainly so I can succeed as a student. But as a byproduct of me meditating, I was able to see the results that gave me, and and that led to me seeing that there was something deeper to my meditation practice. And I realized, I was like, wait, whatever this deeper thing is, it is the source of my improvement of myself. It wasn't. It was my receiving of my better grades. That was the result of my connection to this bigger thing. So I immediately saw that, because I was constantly trying to see, okay, what's the next best thing? What's the next best thing? What's the next thing that's gonna take me to where I want to be, to this better world that I'm trying to find for myself. And I saw it was all the things. It was the things that Alan Watts was talking about. It was the thing that Carl Jung was talking about. The soul, there's something deeper within us. The dimension that is the source of everything. I was looking for the cause, and once I found that out, I was like, I need to find what this is, because when I understand this thing, when I understand the source, then everything will make sense, and I can constantly be tuned into something that will forever guide me and help me improve my life. And that led to my journey into spirituality, which is where I'm at now, where I dove into astrology, I dove into the chakra system, I dove into all of these different things. And by diving into this, I mean through constant experimentation. Like, I didn't just take people's word for it. Like, a lot of people in science, what they do is they like to get the research and only be influenced by the facts. Like, it's not until they've proved something that they can actually take it on. And I'm gonna stand up with this boy because he's not gonna calm down. Come on, boy. Let's do this. Yeah. So people want to wait for the facts. They want it to be scientific, but in reality, the true scientific approach is about experimentation, right? It's about hypothesizing, and I'm talking about becoming a scientist, like in real life. You know, if you have a hypothesis, test it out for yourself. You become the subject. Obviously, this isn't the true scientific method. There's ways to do this. There's procedures. There's the aspect of it that it has to be statistically significant. But when it comes to yourself, when it comes to your life, do you think you're gonna care about like statistical significance? You're not, because you're gonna feel the difference. You're gonna feel the difference that that these things have on your life. You're gonna see the results. You're gonna feel it immediately. So that means, so I'm saying here that move from spirituality, experiment, apply the concepts, practice them for some time, and then reflect on it. Because if you're not experimenting, then you have no way to actually come to a conclusion for yourself. A lot of people want to push away spirituality. They want to say that it's too woo-woo, whatever. And I'm just saying, like, bro, like, you guys are just too attached to your mind. You have no way of ever exiting your mind. You're just a slave to your mind, because the mind wants to always have everything for sure. The mind does not want to die. The mind is like the ego. If it dies, it's going to do everything that it can to not die. And anything that challenges this reality, it's not going to take it on. And it operates based off logic, and spirituality operates based on intuition. So when you start getting into spirituality, people are going to feel so uncomfortable, they're not going to know what to do with it, and that's when they kind of push themselves away from it. But like, that's why I said, like, if you're all about the mind and you want true like scientific shit, look into psychology, study psychology, and you're going to see that that you're going to have a little more groundedness to your spirituality. And if you're a spiritual person, it also benefits you to have an understanding of spirituality. And I used to question how come this practice it's been around for thousands of years. Eastern philosophy, meditation, Buddhism, it's been around for thousands of years, but why isn't it more mainstream? It's because people don't know how to interpret the information. There's no solid framework that allows people to make this relevant to the day-to-day. And I don't think that framework there hasn't been a good opportunity for this up until now, which is like the West integrating psychology into it. You know, thanks to Freud, thanks to Carl Jung, thanks to everybody else that's come in, every other psychologist, every other school of psychology. We now have an opportunity to be able to ground these teachings into the day-to-day with models of development. For example, self-actualization, with models of like individuation by Carl Jung. We now have models, so we can put these experiences of spirituality, where you have these transcendent experiences, where you can see the all. You have these mystical experiences, but then you also have psychological development, which is your mind. There's a progression to it. You can't just have mystical experiences and then not have any integration to it. If not, then you're just stuck with people who you're just stuck with people who are just hippies with no groundedness to their approach. So I'm talking here about a spirituality that can help you raise a baby. That can help you raise a baby and also work a job and also find a wife and also be happy, be fulfilled. You know, have the courage to jump into new endeavors. And that is the result of a spirituality integrated with psychology. And also, spirituality seen as the highest form of self-development, because inherently when people are talking about self-development, they're talking about psychology. They're talking about a more westernized approach to it, because you know you're not gonna go to the, I don't know, it's not very popular to like self-development is linear, it's sequential, and spirituality naturally is seen as this more holistic approach. Oh, careful. Holistic approach. So like there is no really linear progression, and it's almost like people in spirituality kind of like don't like that. They don't like the idea of hierarchy. But this I've had this understanding for a while, and it wasn't until recently where I discovered Ken Wilber, where he was able to really outline this, how spirituality is very powerful. There's transcendent states. There's a difference between states and lines, like lines of development. States are things we can enter. We all have access to them. But development, when it comes to lines of development, there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy, and not everybody's gonna have the same. They're not all gonna be in the same development phase, I guess. Yeah, they're not all gonna be in the same phase of development. So like you can have a progression. You can be in the state of self-actualization, and that you can be in that phase, and that will give you a greater ability to integrate your spiritual experiences versus being in a lower state of development, or a lower phase of development, where you interpret mystical experience just off what you understand of the Bible, or this idea of gods and goddesses, and you see it more so as a projection outside of yourself rather than an understanding to your own being. So spirituality being the highest form of self-development. If you're into self-development, get into spirituality. That's the point I'm saying here. It'll accelerate your growth. And if you're afraid of doing it, if you're like, if you're against it, I'd say just go into it, man. Practice some meditation. Also integrate it with some self-reflection, like Carl Jung, some shadow work. Integrate those two things, and then you'll have a more grounded approach, and you'll have a way to really feel like spirituality is relevant. And then that'll allow you to then go into the even more deeper stuff, like astrology and numerology, esoteric psychology, etc. All right, so that's it for the video. Thank you for tuning in. I was wearing my headphones, so hopefully the mic here is better. All right, so you already know what's up. Stay lucid. Say bye, baby. Bye.